The alien with an attitude is back. In the Adam Cain Chronicles. Moving to the tropical paradise world of Leave 3 was supposed to be a reward for 20 years of saving the galaxy from a variety of aliens with evil intent. But for Adam Cain, Sherri, Valentine, and Riyad Tarazi, it's turning out to be anything but. It's turning into a disaster. Besieged by gangster thugs, alien assassins, and troublesome dinosaurs, the humans are learning they'll need all their skills and natural abilities to survive. And now a young human friend of theirs has put them square in the sights of an enormously wealthy alien with an army of gratis cartel soldiers, who accuses the trio of stealing something they don't have and know nothing about. But does anyone believe them? Not hardly. Now it's a race against time to stay one step ahead of a variety of parties, each out to kill them, or worse. Just when our heroes were hoping to make a new start on a distant world, it is soon back to the same old thing. More alien head bashing, more incredible battles, and more lessons to be taught. And lesson 1. You don't mess with the humans. Ever. 3 aliens walk into a bar. Jay noticed them the moment they entered. Each wore long, trench coat-like outfits, and their thin, beady eyes were intense and unblinking. Jay had seen their type before. They were professionals, serious and determined, and not here for the food and drink. They were looking for someone, and nothing would distract them from their goal. The aliens scanned the interior before locking their yellow eyes laser-like on a table of 6 seated near the large open portal at the back of the building. Jay was a regular at the bar, so he knew the routine. He turned his attention to the long, polished bar to his left and noticed the bartender, Kaler, checking his computer screen, concern clouding his light blue face. There were detectors at the front door, and the newcomers had come in armed, ignoring the signs proclaiming Captain Cain's bar and grill to be a no-weapons-allowed establishment. A moment later, Kaler was on a link, calling Adam for backup. Jay's 4 alien companions were oblivious to the newcomers, content instead to down another round of the finest intoxicants to be found anywhere in the coastal enclave of Balamar, at least the finest to human standards. But their ignorant bliss didn't last long. Moments later, the intruders made a beeline for the table with the 6 aliens, their attention focused, their purpose never wavering. Then all hell broke loose. The 3 aliens pulled back their coats and produced Xan-Phi flash rifles, bringing them to bear on the unsuspecting patrons. To their credit, those seated at the table were quick to react and managed to tumble from their chairs before the first bolt launched. Unfortunately for 2 of them, it wasn't fast enough. Now, as the surviving targets scrambled away on their hands and knees, the assassins opened up on the rest of the bar, indiscriminately sending their deadly plasma bolts into the surrounding tables as they tracked their targets through the panicking crowd. Pandemonium broke out, followed by a cacophony of screeches, squealing, and screams. Jay lifted the bottom of his table and tipped it over, before diving unceremoniously behind it for cover. Flash bolts didn't have much penetrating power, so the table would protect him. However, when he flipped the table, his 4 companions ended up on the other side and in full view of the killers. But they weren't the primary targets. They would be okay, at least that's what Jay hoped. Just then, one of the aliens from the target table crawled around the end of Jay's shelter. His left shoulder was a bubbling hunk of red meat, and the side of his face a charred, hideous mess.
"Help me,"
the alien pleaded in an anguished voice. Jay placed a boot against the alien's forehead and pushed him back into the open.
"I don't think so."
"Mercy, I will provide a reward."
"A reward? What kind of reward?"
"No time now. Help."
Jay poked his head above the overturned table. The killers were blasting through crowds of people, trying to locate their scurrying targets. They'd lost sight of the one with Jay, at least for the moment.
"I'll help, but for a reward."
Jay grasped the alien by the intact part of his shirt and lifted him from the floor. In the light gravity of Leave 3, it wasn't much of a chore, not for a human. Hunched over, Jay carried him through the back portal and onto the sand of the beach behind the tavern, before turning right and tossing the wounded alien into the dark alley between Cain's and Sherri's Golden Slipper Hotel next door. He then crawled back to the portal to see if they'd been followed. Fortunately for him and his charge, the assassins were otherwise occupied. Jay looked inside just as one of the bar's owners, Adam Cain, jumped from the second-floor balcony, landing on top of two of the killers. All three tumbled to the floor, before rolling over and attempting to get to their feet. At the same time, another of the owners appeared, Sherri Valentine, this time armed with a wooden club. The third alien assassin had his weapon lined up on Adam, but he never got the chance to finger the trigger. With all the skill of a major league home run hitter, Sherri swung the club at the side of the killer's head, catching him off guard. The blow was so powerful that the alien's head was nearly ripped off his shoulders, as every bone in his neck shattered with only the thick, pliable skin keeping it attached. The head flopped onto the alien's chest, as the momentum of the blow sent his body tumbling over another table. In the meantime, Adam Cain managed to grab the arm of one of the other killers and lift the rifle up and away from the fleeing crowd. A bolt lit off, splashing on the ceiling below the balcony. Adam then unleashed a powerful elbow straight into the alien's chin. Even from where Jay lay, he could hear the cracking of bone. The alien dropped where he stood, dead before hitting the floor. The remaining assassin was crawling away when he suddenly rolled over and brought his flash rifle to bear on Adam. Frozen in place, Adam stretched out a thin, almost sinister grin. A moment later, the targeting computer and the rifle locked on, and a brilliant ball of white flared out from the barrel. It hit Adam squarely in the chest. Adam grimaced, the veins in his neck standing out in stark relief. A perfectly round hole formed in the fabric of his shirt, glowing red around the edges. Adam's chest was exposed, displaying a raw crimson burn. The angry human patted at the embers of his shirt, his grin now a savage growl. Jay laughed when he saw the expression on the face of the would-be assassin. He'd seen the same shocked look 3 times before, on the faces of the unfortunate few who also shot him with level 2 flash bolts. To a human, all a level 2 did was make them mad. A level 1 was required to take down a human, and only then if it was in the right spot. Adam jumped, dropping a knee onto the chest of the stunned killer. An impossibly deep depression formed in the torso as ribs broke, lungs collapsed, and his heart burst. At least that's how Jay imagined it. He had no idea as to the physiology of the alien. It didn't matter. The creature was dead upon impact. Satisfied that the show was over, Jay returned to the alien in the alley. In the dim light of the dangling lanterns on the canopy covering the beach area behind the bar, Jay could see that the injured alien was on his last leg. His eyes were closed, and he appeared to be dead, although he was still breathing. Jay roused him, shaking his frail body until his eyes opened from the associated pain. With sad, bloodshot eyes, he looked down at his toasted torso.
I appear to be severely injured.
He groaned.
That you are.
Will I survive?
I doubt it.
Jay answered honestly.
What was that all about? Those guys came in looking for you and the others at the table.
They came to prevent us from speaking about the weapons.
What weapons?
The alien coughed, and droplets of blood stained his lips. He began to drift away again.
Stay awake,
Jay ordered, gently slapping the unburned side of his face.
What weapons?
The weapons on Haxon.
His watery red eyes then locked on Jay.
I promised a reward. I will now honor my pledge.
I was hoping you'd say that.
On Haxon in a warehouse at the Tennyson Manufacturing Works. In the city of Keo, you will find the weapons. They are prototypes, the most powerful energy weapons in the galaxy.
The words of the dying alien came out in descending intensity, trailing off to almost nothing at the end.
In a warehouse.
Yes. Number 11. The entry code is 0881.
How many weapons are there?
Many.
And how do you know about them?
I contract to ship, never the chance.
The alien coughed again, accompanied by another spray of blood.
Who was that trying to kill you?
Jay asked. But it was too late. When he leaned in closer, he could see the alien had died. Jay leaned back against the clapboard exterior of Captain Cain's bar and grill and considered what the alien said. There's a boatload of prototype weapons in a warehouse on Haxon. This could be interesting. Jay knew of the planet Haxon, although he'd never been there. It was one of the 100-plus worlds the mad heiress Kracion had irradiated a few years back, killing nearly all of the native population. Axon was one of the first to be attacked, and as such, the catastrophe came without much warning. Only a few thousand survivors made it off the planet, many of whom came to nearby Liyv 3 as refugees. Even so, most of the wealthier and well-connected Haxonians didn't stay long. Liyv 3 was a hole-in-the-wall planet at the time without much to offer those with means. For that matter, it still was. By this time, the bulk of the more affluent refugees had moved farther into the galaxy, looking for more sophisticated planets to call their new home. Unfortunately for the alien in the alley, he was left behind on L3. Jay's heart pounded, the excitement building. Weapons were a hot commodity for the thousands of salvagers pouring over the stricken worlds left in Cracion's wake. Although dangerous to ship and often illegal to sell, they could still fetch small fortunes on the black market. They were part of the infinite variety of contraband that made up the gold rush taking place within what was called the Dead Zone. Staggering fortunes were being made by those resourceful enough to find and hold onto their salvages. The last part, holding onto their claims, that was the main challenge. The zone was a wild and woolly place where only the strongest or most tenacious survived. Even so, it was obvious Jay would have to check out the validity of the alien's claim. He left the dead alien in the alley and returned to the bar. There he found Adam Cain waving his arms and swearing up a storm while Sherri Valentine sat at one of the few upright tables, a drink in her hand. She chugged it, then called to the tiny bear-like alien Jim to bring her another. The place was a mess. Burn marks dotted the walls, and there were easily a dozen tables broken or overturned, with chairs scattered everywhere. But worst of all, several bodies lay helter-skelter across the floor, creating huge puddles of dark blood on the wooden planks. Jay identified the 5 aliens from the original table, now dead, their clothing and skin still giving off sickening whiffs of pungent white smoke. They were all of the same race, Hax-1ins, like the one in the alley. The 3 killers were also of the same race, although Jay didn't recognize the species. That wasn't unusual, not with the incredible influx of people coming to Liyv 3 recently. Adam looked at Jay, his face red, his eyes wide.
"Look what they did to my place,"
he barked.
"Decent damn aliens, every last one of the bastards."
Sherri snorted.
"And this isn't going to help our reputation. We're going to lose customers because of this. Unless we can barbecue up the dead and serve them at a discounted price."
The funny thing, she wasn't joking. With a galaxy full of carnivores, just about every species was a meal for another. Jay didn't have an interest in the bar, however. As one of the few humans on the planet, he spent most of his time between salvage operations at Cain's. He was a familiar face. Adam and his partners had done a decent job of converting the old building into a faithful replica of a Key West-style dive bar, complete with fishnets on the walls and colorful canopies over the tables out on the beach. They even had a huge charcoal grill outside that cooked real meat. That was a rarity in the galaxy, where everything spit out of computer-controlled food processors rather than being cooked fresh. For Jay, Cain's was a pretty nice place to hang out. That was until a few minutes ago.
Any idea what happened?
Jay asked. He wasn't inclined to tell Adam about the weapons. That was his little secret, even though he knew the weapons were the reason for the killings. Someone wanted to keep their existence a secret, that someone undoubtedly being the weapons owners.
"I have no idea why they did this,"
Adam answered in a growl.
"All I know is my no guns allowed policy isn't working. It's as if aliens can't read."
"Most can't.
Sherri pointed out.
They just rely on their translators."
Another human entered through a walkway connecting the bar with the outfitting business next door. The dark-haired, bearded man looked around, shaking his head in disgust.
"Looks like I missed all the fun,"
said Riyad Tarazi. He was the 3rd human running a trio of businesses operating under the umbrella of the Big 3 partnership. He was also Jay's friend.
"Is everyone okay? Except, of course, for these unfortunate souls on the floor. We belong to Allah, and to Allah we shall return. Except in their case, I don't give a crap. Look what they did to the place."
He stepped over the body of an alien with a crushed chest. Adam took a quick inventory.
"Looks like they only killed 3 of the regular customers, besides the ones the assassins targeted."
"Assassins?"
Riyad queried.
"Yeah, it was a hit job. These 3 came in looking for those 5.
Those 6.
Jay corrected.
I managed to drag one of them out the back, and before you ask, he's dead."
Jay then looked around the bar, frowning.
"Where's my crew?"
Sherri waved a hand toward the front door.
Donald was hit in the arm. The others took him out the front, probably to the med clinic.
The bar was deserted now, except for the 4 humans and the 2 alien junior partners in the company, Kaylor and Jim. Other than that, anyone who wasn't dead had executed strategic retreats as soon as the shooting began. Jay shrugged, figuring it was a good time for him to leave, as well. Besides, he had things to do.
I'm going to check on my people,
He said as he set off for the door. No one paid any attention, lost instead in their feelings of anger and frustration. Outside in the warm, humid air, Jay turned toward the small medical clinic located a few blocks down the road. He'd make a quick check on his people and then hire a transport to take him to the nearby Capt spaceport. He had a small personal sprinter parked there that would get him to Haxon and back. He couldn't make any moves on the salvage until the alien's information was verified. If true, this could be a pretty big score, possibly the biggest of Jay's life. But until confirmed, he would hold his cards close to the vest. After all, knowledge of the prototype weapons could be hazardous to one's health, as he'd just witnessed. And Jay Williford wasn't anxious to end up like the dead alien in the alley, not if he could help it. Adam Cain was on his hands and knees, scrubbing on the burnt amber stain on the wooden floor of his bar. The blood from the killings 2 days before had soaked into the porous planks and would take more than elbow grease to remove. As sweat poured into his eyes from the effort, Adam was rapidly concluding that only a brisk sanding could reach the discoloration. That or a darker stain to hide the evidence. There were only a handful of customers in Cain's at the time, with most sitting outside at the tables dotting the white sand beach near the bay. Umbrella canopies protected them from the intense late summer heat, and a fresh breeze blew in from the sea, located 100 yards from the back entrance to the bar. Sherri was right about them losing business. It had only been 2 days, and already receipts were down 50%. Killings like that didn't happen in Balamar, at least not along what Adam called the Lee of Riviera, the stretch of crescent beach south of the peninsula. Instead, such events were reserved for the rough-and-tumble boomtown of Capt, located 14 miles farther inland. There, the 50,000 mostly transient inhabitants were used to near-constant shootouts, murders, and assaults. For them, it was a way of life, or death, the sad consequence of a town that suddenly sprouts from the jungles in only 2 years. There wasn't enough time for traditions to take hold, at least not the traditions one would be proud to have. Unlike Capt, the 60-year-old coastal community of Balamar had always been more peaceful, more laid back. Its 1,200 permanent residents preferred it that way. But times were changing, with the violence and lawlessness of Capt overflowing into Balamar on a more regular basis. Many of the long-term residents were quick to blame the newcomers to their community. The newcomers being the 3 humans and 2 aliens, who made up the Big 3 partnership and the trio of businesses they operated in central Balamar. Adam leaned back on his haunches and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Painters were covering up the burn marks on the walls and ceiling from the plasma bolts while Sherri and Kaylor worked on putting the broken tables back together. With the lull in business, the little bear-like alien Jim was out at Copernicus's old shipyard, attempting to get some of the derelict starships working again. And lastly, Riyad was next door at Tarazi's outfitters and expeditions tending to business. With the drop in revenue at Cain's, as well as the residual effect it was having on Sherri's hotel, it was imperative Riyad keep the outfitting business running at full speed. Just then, a shaft of light shot into the interior of the tavern as the front door opened. At first, Adam couldn't make out who entered, not through the glare. But as the male alien stepped farther in and up to the monitoring turnstile that would read his body chemistry, Adam was able to see him more clearly. He appeared to be slightly overweight, although it was impossible to tell with an alien. He was also a little taller than Adam, which was common, and with smooth brown skin tending to the darker side. His eyes looked to have eyeliner defining the orbs, making him look intense and intimidating. Again, that could be normal for his unknown race. But what set the alien apart was the luxurious cut of his clothing. He wore a shiny silver coat joined at a single point over his bulbous belly, with an undervest of shimmering gold. His pants were trim and made of dark blue material, and he wore a pair of pointed shoes with translucent scales on them, possibly made from the hide of one of the local dinosaur species. His head was basic prime, looking quite humanoid in shape and features, and with a full crop of wavy silver hair atop his head. The word dandy came to mind, even though Adam could never recall using the word to describe someone before. In this case, it fit, being both archaic and insulting at the same time. The alien paused after entering the main dining area and looked around. As an alien, his expression was subject to misinterpretation, but Adam got the impression he was amused. Then, with bravado in his step, the being strode up to Adam and looked down at him with a glint in his golden eyes, a thin smile on his face.
"Are you the owner?"
he asked in a deep voice that resonated in the air, as if he had sung the words. Adam stood up and wiped his hands on the blood-soaked cleaning cloth.
I am,
he answered.
"I am Dal Davison,"
the alien stated, using a tone which indicated he expected Adam to know who he was. When Adam didn't react, he continued.
"I have meant to come and introduce myself, curious as to who bought the Balamar properties from my good friend Hugh Sands. Over the years, I too have been interested in purchasing these buildings, but now I see I am too late. My loss. May we sit?"
of course.
Adam watched the computer screen on the table light up, indicating that Davison was of a race called Lamanics, while also detailing a menu of food and drink that was compatible with the alien's body chemistry. The alien took note of the screen.
"Quite impressive,"
he said, pulling the rotating monitor around so he could read it in full.
"I have heard of this technology. You undoubtedly read my chems as I entered. I have meant to try these in my establishments, but lack of time is often my enemy. For now, I am content to remain using the standard blood testing boxes."
If you're interested, we have about 80 of them in storage around here somewhere. We could let you have them for a very fair price.
He didn't mention he would need the money to replace the broken monitors from the other night. That bill was going to be around 3,000 Jurian credits just by itself.
"I appreciate the offer, and I will keep it in mind."
The alien's forehead then furrowed.
"And you are a human, are you not?"
That's right.
"I was not aware humans owned any businesses on L3. There are certainly none in Kanak."
Have you had much experience with humans?
Davison bobbed his head.
"Not to any degree. However, I have heard of your race, as has everyone in the galaxy. Correct me if I am wrong, but you are a fairly primitive species who rose to prominence over 20 years ago after successfully defeating the Urians, then the Klin, and then the Kracion battle, before temporarily assuming control of the expansion. And now you manage a slowly growing empire in the Far Arm."
I might take exception to the word primitive.
Adam stated.
"All is relative, of course. But alas, most of the stories I have heard of your species revolve around the chronicles of a single mythical creature who, according to the stories, has been the catalyst for multiple thrilling adventures involving the fate of the galaxy and beyond."
Adam frowned.
Mythical creature.
He asked,
Why mythical?
"How could it be otherwise? No single entity could be responsible for all the deeds attributed to him, this greatest of all human heroes. In my opinion, these are just tales, fantasies created to inflate the human mystique to instill awe and mystery in your kind."
Adam knew what was coming, but he played along anyway.
And who is this mythical creature you're referring to?
He asked, a thin smile now stretching across his face. Davison appeared confused.
"Surely you must know. Adam Cain, of course. Even you are perpetuating the legend, having named your establishment after him."
Adam nodded, amused, while at the same time a little insulted. He remained quiet, setting the bait.
"And what name do you go by, my human friend?"
The alien finally asked. Adam leaned back in his chair and grinned even wider.
My name is Cain. Adam Cain.
Davison frowned again while shaking his head.
"Surely a coincidence. Or an alias."
None of the above. I am Adam Cain, but I have to admit, most of the stories you've heard of me are exaggerations, at least to some degree.
The alien's tanned face was suddenly animated.
"Surely you jest. You are the famous Adam Cain."
Adam nodded. Davison looked across the room to the frazzled-looking blonde banging away on a wooden table.
"So that would make the human female Sherri Valentine. Am I correct? And somewhere nearby will be Riyad Tarazi. It is well known the three of you travel together quite often."
Adam nodded again.
And you even pronounce the names right. I'm impressed.
"I do attempt to keep up with current affairs."
But then the frown returned.
"And now the three most famous humans in the galaxy are on L3 and operating a variety of businesses in the little Balamar enclave. How can this be true?"
Adam shrugged.
We're retired now and just looking for a little peace and quiet. Nothing wrong with that, is there?
Peace.
Davison said, bobbing his head.
I heard of the attack that took place here the other night. It is rumored to have been carried out by professional assassins. That would hardly qualify as peace and quiet.
Hey, these things happen. It had nothing to do with us.
I find that hard to believe. Probably a residual effect from your storied past.
Adam bristled at the statement.
It's true, whether you believe it or not. It had nothing to do with us. Now, what can I do for you, Dalvi is in?
The alien looked around the room. Sherri had taken notice of Adam's tense body language and sensed something was amiss. She was watching the pair like a hawk.
The name is Davison.
Dal corrected, returning his attention to Adam. Both the smile and the frown were gone, replaced now by a steady, non-blinking glare of his outlined eyes.
Have you not heard of me?
No, I haven't. Sorry.
That, too. I cannot believe.
Adam's smile vanished and he leaned forward in his chair.
A word of advice, my friend. Stop calling me a liar.
The dandy-dressed creature held up his hands in mock defense.
Calm yourself, Adam Cain. Recall, I know of your volatile attitude and propensity for violence. I, on the other hand, am a true creature of enterprise. I prefer my encounters to be mutually beneficial and non-violent. And since you are ignorant of who I am, I will allow you a certain latitude, but at least for the time being. Just let it be known that the two of us are presently at odds with each other, competitors in many ways. Just like you, I operate several drinking and eating establishments. In addition, I am active in the salvage business, and I own several temporary residences, such as the one you have next door. However, and most importantly, I also control the power module franchise on Leave 3, meaning that all ships coming to and leaving the planet that require refueling must deal with me. Because of that, as well as several other ventures I am involved in, I am able to help my friends.
The alien's eyes narrowed, and he leaned in a little closer to Adam.
At the same time, I have the ability to punish my enemies if the need arises.
By the end of his brief soliloquy, any trace of cordiality was gone.
Is that a threat?
Adam asked, sitting up straighter in his chair. The cocky alien was pushing all the wrong buttons. How much longer Adam would put up with his veiled threats was anyone's guess. Davison leaned back in his chair.
A threat. Against the most dangerous human in the galaxy? I may be blunt and somewhat arrogant, but I am not stupid. Now that I have met you, just let me say I am here to offer you a lesson on how things are done on Leave 3. As it is in most communities, there are certain protocols and traditions one must follow in order to remain in business and safe from harm. And as you will learn on L3, I set those protocols. You are newcomers. I would think you would welcome this timely instruction.
Adam had had enough. He leaned in closer.
Listen, Dal, I don't give a damn about your protocols or your lessons. My friends and I came here looking for a simpler life and not to get involved in local politics or play games with any small-time gangsters. I've seen enough of your kind to last a lifetime. We only want to run our businesses and be left alone. We're not looking for any trouble.
Davison smiled and looked down at the red stain on the floor.
And yet trouble seems to find you, Adam Cain. If half the stories about you are true, then you are a magnet for chaos. I, on the other hand, seek only harmony and compliance. If you tend to your businesses and stay out of mine, there will be no trouble between us.
I'm not the one who barged into your place of business and started calling you a liar and making threats.
Davison stood up, announcing the sudden end to his so-called lesson.
Then consider this visit a courtesy. As I said, I seek only harmony and compliance. You do that, and we will get along.
Harmony I can deal with,
Adam said.
Compliance might be a problem.
Davison bowed slightly.
Then I shall depart and observe the evolution of our respective attitudes. In all sincerity, I wish you luck, Adam Cain, with the attitude you have exhibited over the years. It is well known. However, it remains to be seen how well it will serve you on Leave 3.
As Dal Davison stepped out into the bright light of midday, anger clouded his thoughts. He had not intended to become so forceful with the newcomers. That was something that just happened, thanks to the surprise of his learning their identity. And Dal Davison hated surprises. As he opened the door to his waiting transport, he caught sight of a familiar figure farther along the thoroughfare. He was there for only a moment, and now he was gone. Dal told his driver to wait and then headed down the street. At an alleyway between buildings, Dal found him there, hiding in the shadows, trying to conceal his embarrassment at being sighted.
Lionel, my friend, I thought that was you.
Dal said to the plump, four-armed creature wearing a bright purple coat.
You are just the being I wish to speak with.
Lionel shifted nervously in place, clutching a small stack of datapads in two of his arms.
I was not aware you were in town. What urgent matter brings you all the way to Balamar? And to see me?
Dal moved in closer, until he was only a foot from the shorter alien, forcing Lionel to press his back against the side of the building and with no place to run. Dal towered over the creature, his stare drilling into the nervous eyes of the other, their bellies touching.
You know why I am here?
Dal growled.
Why did you not tell me you sold Hugh's properties to Adam Cain?
Dal's voice was like gravel, causing Lionel to shrink even smaller under the intense onslaught of the Kingpin's powerful presence.
Adam Cain? Yes, I did. However, it was understood that Sherri Valentine was the driving force behind the transaction, not Adam Cain. I did not think it significant enough to bother you.
Not significant,
Dal barked.
The most famous humans in the galaxy moved to Balamar, and you do not feel that is significant.
They are here simply to run minor businesses, away from Karnak and of no concern to you.
I will decide what is of concern to me.
They said they came here to retire.
Lionel blurted in his defense.
It is the practice of spending leisure time at insignificant activities in their advancing years.
I know what retirement means, you scab, and you believe them.
It is what they told me.
You are as gullible as you are fat. A creature like Adam Cain does not retire. He is always on a mission, and he did not come to L3 to manage a drinking establishment or other ancillary businesses, as you were told.
He has not.
No, he is here for other, more sinister purposes.
And you believe these sinister purposes involve you?
Dal slapped the shorter alien across the face, not hard, but enough to focus his attention.
Of course I do. You fool. He is here investigating my activities.
Did he tell you that?
Dal slapped him again.
Of course not. He did not have to. You have met the humans, so you should know they are not here to wall away their remaining years in obscurity on Leave 3. And if the rumors are true, these three were most recently involved in a potentially catastrophic event facing the entire universe. The universe. They are heroes, not merchants. And now you believe they would simply toss everything aside to what? To run a tavern?
Dal shook his head.
No, they are here seeking information. Why else? Leave 3 has become the center of the galaxy, with thousands arriving daily seeking their fortunes in the Dead Zone. We are a hotbed of both legal and illegal activity. And with the unique status of the region, there is no formal government nor law enforcement with authority over us or the Dead Worlds. What is legal or not legal is a relative question. What better place for human agents to operate than here? Think, Lionel. And who is it that controls most of the activities on L3?
That would be you, my friend Dal?
Precisely. And that is why Cain is here, and now operating businesses that put him in direct competition with me. A perfect excuse for him and his team to be here.
Competition? They have but 3 small enterprises, and in Balamar, you control nearly an entire city.
Dal pursed his purple lips.
At one time, that was true,
he said sourly.
But we both know that is changing. There is an influx of upstarts and other powerful entities coming to Karnak, many representing enormous organizations, and all seeking their share of what I have.
Maris Kliss,
Lionel whispered.
Yes, MK, among others. All want their piece of the Dead Worlds. And now they are intruding upon my interests, squeezing me in every direction. And into this unstable environment, you allow Adam Cain to enter.
Perhaps he is here for one of the others and not for you.
The others are newcomers to Leave 3, still vying for position and power. I am the establishment, a being with ties throughout Karnak and the Zone. No, he is here for me. I can feel it. He even pretended he had not heard of me. Who on Leave 3 has not heard of Dal Division?
What then are you to do about him? After all, he is Adam Cain.
Dal looked out of the alley toward the main street of Balamar. He sighed before turning his full attention back to Lionel.
The better question is, what are you going to do about him?
Me, as in me alone.
That is correct. You have a relationship with the humans. You sold them Hugh Sand's properties without my permission or my foreknowledge. For that, you are most to blame for my current situation. You must make amends, Lionel. Otherwise, the consequences for you will be severe.
Anything, my friend Dal. What is it you wish?
Stay close to the humans. Learn all you can about their activities. And this time, you will report to me on every move they make, every bit of information you discover. I want to know everything they do even before they do it. Is that understood?
Perfectly.
Good.
Dal placed a hand on the shoulder of the trembling being and squeezed hard.
And Lionel, if you fail me again, you will experience firsthand what the inside of a gravity generator is like, as your atoms become fused with those of one of my deadly power modules.
There will be no need, my friend. Since the beginning I have been your loyal associate. You know this to be true. I will not fail you.
Dal leaned in closer, staring into Lionel's yellow eyes. He said nothing more, instead letting the moment sink in on its own. He then released Lionel and abruptly left the alley, returning to his transport, leaving Lionel shaking and sweating, an emotional wreck. After instructing his driver to return to Capt, Dal leaned back in his seat, fuming with rage and concern. Unfortunately, this Adam Cain complication was just one of a dozen critical situations he was dealing with at the moment, with more seeming to arrive daily. Since he first arrived on Leave 3 2 years before, the planet, as well as his precious city of Capt, had always been a fluid environment. But in the early days, he controlled the flow of events. Now the tide was shifting. There was a flood of newcomers, each with their own agendas, many of which now overlapped with his own. It took all his cunning and experience to stay one step ahead of those who would attempt to bring him down. And now Adam Cain was on L3. This did not bode well. Already the expansion and the Union were in a tense political struggle for control of the Dead Zone. It was even possible events could spiral out of control, resulting in a shooting war between the two galactic empires. And where would that leave Dal and all he'd built on Leave 3? The famous Adam Cain must be working for the Union. Why would he not? He is a human, and the Orion Cygnus Union is a human-run organization. And if so, then he is but a harbinger of more sinister operations to come, and all aimed directly at him. Fortunately, Dal Davison was experienced enough to recognize when he was a target, and knowing now what weapon others would use against him, it was his job to negate this threat before his enemy could strike. He'd done it before. He would do it again. Adam Cain and the other humans had to be eliminated. This has been an excerpt from my book, The Dead Worlds, book number 1 of the Adam Cain saga by T.R. Harris. You can continue the adventure by checking out the novel and series on Amazon. The links are in the channel description. More passages from within this book, and many others, are posted on this channel on a regular basis. Be sure to check back often to see all the new HFY sci-fi adventures I'm premiering. Also, you can find all of my 70+ novels on Amazon or by going to my website at bytrharris.com. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Your support is greatly appreciated. For almost 13 years, I have been writing HFY material, being one of the first authors to do so. My stories highlight humans as the supermen and women of the galaxy, the ones to be respected and feared. My goal was to prove that every person on Earth was a Superman or Superwoman simply because they're human. It should give all my readers a reason to stand up and pump their fists into the air. After all, the saying goes, humanity. Fuck yeah. All story material on this channel was written by T.R. Harris. Copyright by Tom Harris Creations, LLC.